have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So,
it looks like they found one of those ways of getting back at him. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people? We're Americans.
Americans indeed. My name is Vincent, and this is Middle America. Unless you've been sleeping on a rock for the last 20 minutes, or 2 hours or whatever, you've heard that Mr. Trump's, the former president of the United States of America, his Mar-a-lago resort in Florida has been raided by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as the FBI. Now, I don't know the particulars of this. It was told to me in the middle of another broadcast, and I was not going to interrupt that broadcast even for Mr. Trump. So I was not able to cover the story, but we have just finished that broadcast. So now we can cover the story, but I do not have the usual details that Vin usually has. You guys know I always show up with receipts and things of that nature. This is sort of a developing story, so please forgive me, dear listener, if I don't have the normal facts that I normally come with. This is just coming straight off the presses. I've pulled this video from MSNBC. We'll look at it together and see what we see. Mr. Hansen says Democrats working hand in hand with the U.S. intelligence community to eliminate the chance of Donald Trump from running for office in U.S. elections in 2024. We already know how Trump supporters are going to look at this. I don't have enough information to say what's going on there. I did play the Chuck Schumer clip at the beginning of the episode where Mr. Schumer famously stated the following, and I think it is important to play it again just to be fair to Trump and his supporters. Mr. Schumer about 5 years ago said
Joining
the
us again
following,
is the brand new Democratic
and I
leader
do
of
think
the United
that,
States.
and you know,
because Mr. Schumer said this, anything that the intelligence community does relative to Mr. Trump should have a question mark or an asterisk. And that's not based on Trump conspiracy theorists. This is based on what Chuck Schumer said. This is right after the election. Listen very closely to what Chuck Schumer said here. Here we go.
I tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if
So
they were
I don't know.
That was 5 years ago. You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways of Sundays at getting at you, and we know what happened relative to Trump in the intelligence community. So I'm not saying this is that. What I am saying, though, is if a Trump supporter were to say, as Mr. Hansen said, that the Democrats are working with U.S. intelligence to make sure that Trump can't run again, I can see why he would say that. I also think that if that is the playbook, that is the dumbest possible outcome for anybody on the left wing. And I'll maybe explain why later. But here is MSNBC talking about covering the Trump raid. What's up, Ian Kirby? Let's check it out, guys.
Good evening from New York. I am Alicia Menendez, in for Chris Hayes. The home of the 45th president of the United States has been raided.
Look how happy this woman is. I'm going to rewind that. Look how happy this woman is.
Good evening from New York. I am Alicia Menendez, in for Chris Hayes. The home of the 45th president of the United States.
Look, this girl is mad happy. She is mad happy to be able to announce this. Okay, shorty, let's go. It's your birthday.
Raided by the FBI. That's according to the man himself, Donald Trump, who issued a lengthy statement just over an hour ago condemning an unannounced FBI raid on his Florida residence, Mar-a-lago.
You mean like the unannounced raid that happened to Breonna Taylor? Like that kind of raid? Like that? We continue.
This comes on the heels of reporting that Trump's lawyers are currently in negotiations with the Department of Justice, stemming from its investigation into Trump's attempted coup. And tonight, it looks like federal agents were executing the...
Trump's attempted coup. Trump's attempted coup. Well, I do think the January 6th thing was serious. I do think that the posture of Trump supporters is woefully inconsistent and, quite frankly, unpatriotic. But I'm not certain that you can say that Trump is solely responsible. Trump's attempted coup. I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I'll give you that. Whatever. King Yeti says, can't have a coup without guns. Yeah, but again, the mindset of those people was that those people believed that they had insiders who were packing guns, and once they raided the Capitol, then the insiders with the guns, the government agents with the guns that were on Trump's side, were going to lead people out in handcuffs. Like I literally had people texting me saying, bro, they're going to lead Pelosi out in handcuffs. Just watch. So the fact that these folks didn't carry any weapons necessarily doesn't mean that they were not intending a coup. But to your point, Trump knew that nobody was going to be walked out in handcuffs. Pelosi was. He knew that. The people that were following didn't know that, but he knew that. So I don't know necessarily. My view on what happened on January 6th, I believe Trump should spend the rest of his life in prison because of January 6th. But my view on what happened in January 6th was that Trump was using those gullible people. I know people like to call those people idiots and things like that, but I don't think they were idiots. I think there's some very intelligent people that got caught up in that whole situation. But he used their gullibility and their pathology as a stall tactic to convince other people like Mike Pence, et cetera, to change their view on it. So I look at 1-6 as a stall tactic that was used because Trump believed he could convince one of a couple other people to make that happen. And then it spun out of control and people died because of it. And I think he needs to be held accountable with that. But as we've seen with Trump, that there's just nothing that the man could do that would make his supporters say, yeah, that wasn't right. So I don't believe that Trump was trying to orchestrate a coup using those people. I think he used those people to get a stall tactic, to get more time to convince people. We heard the Rudy Giuliani thing. While these people were hiding for their lives, Giuliani was calling folks and saying, hey, we need to not do this vote today. We can't do this today. We can't ratify the votes today. I don't know if you guys listened to that take. So I don't believe that it was a coup attempt by Trump. I think it was a delay attempt by Trump because he was really convinced that he could talk Pence or somebody else into doing the wrong thing. But I mean, that's neither here nor there for the purposes of this discussion. I'm not sure. Let's see.
Next step in one of the investigations into the ex.
Oh no, Art, you're wrong. Art, you're wrong. Art, your president stood by for an hour and a half and didn't tell anybody to go home till an hour and a half, would not pick up the phone when I believe the governor of Virginia was trying to get permission to bring the National Guard in to support the Capitol, the depleted Capitol Police. Your president sat on his ass for an hour and a half and let that shit go. And as I've said a million times, Art, and the rest of the folks who want to justify this, while I don't think it was a coup, what I will say is if the protesters were not carrying Confederate flags, and if the protesters were brown, and if the protesters were not screaming God bless America, but they were screaming Allahu Akbar, and the Confederate flag turned into an ISIS flag, if Obama was the sitting president while that happened for an hour and a half, while the governor of Virginia was desperately trying to get the National Guard to help, and if Obama sat on his ass for an hour and a half while that was happening with the Capitol, none of you would take the same posture, right? So Art, let's just be honest here, okay? Let's be honest. If the scenario that I just talked about happened, you would not be fine with Obama sitting on his ass for an hour and a half and not doing anything, okay? So let's just be honest here. The situation is done. It's over with. Biden's the president now, whatever. But Art, let's not pretend that 1/6 was not a significant moment. It wasn't necessarily a coup, but it was definitely a criminal act by our sitting president. My personal opinion about this whole thing, the 1/6 investigation, is all of this is a moot point and completely unnecessary. The fact that he sat on his ass for an hour and a half, wouldn't pick up the phone when the governor of Virginia or whoever was trying to call him to get extra help in there, that is all the information that I need. I don't need anything else. So let's not be inconsistent here. Let's try to apply some consistency. If this was a black Democrat and the people that were charging the Capitol were brown, screaming Allahu Akbar with flags with the Muslim Shahada on it, you would not be saying that, Art. So let's just move past that and just deal with reality and try to be honest, right? Let's be honest, Art. How about that?
President. The New York Times is now reporting that this raid is related to classified documents Trump allegedly brought with him from the White House. Quote, the search, according to two people, condemning an unannounced FBI raid on his Florida residence, Mar-a-Lago. This comes on the heels of reporting that Trump's lawyers are currently in negotiations.
All right, so Art is saying he's being honest. Okay, Art, before we get into this reporting, Art, let me ask you a question. Please answer it directly. 1/6 happens. Trump is the one that won the election. Obama is sitting in office, okay? Days prior to that, one of Obama's friends, puts out on social media, today is the time to sacrifice your blood, your money, and your lives for your country, patriots. Show up on 1/6. Show up, ya Muslimin, on 1/6. So they show up, and then Obama gives a speech, and at the end he says, I have commanded to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah, and then their property and blood will be safe from me, right? So Obama gives this rousing speech, and then all of a sudden, all these Muslims yelling, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. So they start going after the Capitol, right? Wrecking shop. They start erecting things to hang people. And there's a giant ISIS flag draped over the second floor, and the National Guard is calling up Obama, and Obama will not answer will not pick up for an hour and a half, will not address his supporters for an hour and a half, lets them do all kinds of damage, and then an hour and a half later gets up in front of TV. Art, would you say that's a nothing burger, or would you call Barack Hussein Obama a traitor to this country? Please answer honestly. That's all I'm asking. That's the scenario. How would you characterize Mr. Obama's inaction after a scenario like that? I'm pretty certain you and every other Trump supporter on this planet would say that he's a traitor and that he needs to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm just being consistent. If Obama did that, obviously he would be a traitor to our country and he should spend the rest of his life in prison. And just because the assailants were not brown people and the flag was a Confederate flag and not an ISIS flag, and just because they were saying God bless America instead of Allahu Akbar, that doesn't change life for me. He refused. It was a Republican Virginian governor who was livid, who stood outside and said, we called this dude for an hour and a half and they wouldn't even pick up the phone. Art, stop it. This dishonesty it's too much. Be honest. That he betrayed our country. I'm not going to go and say it was a coup or an attempted coup. Like I said, it was just a stall tactic. But can we please stop it with the gaslighting and the lying and trying to pretend that this is not. And now, look. So I asked Art a direct question. Now, Art's my brother. I love him. I asked him a direct question. Look how he answered the question. Funny how Hillary's 30,000 emails got bleached and their Blackberries smashed with hammers, but there's no raid on her or Hunter. The truth will come out what really happened. Exactly. That's a non-answer, Art. Now, Hillary Clinton is also a corrupt individual, and I absolutely blame her for the events that took the life of Glenn Doherty and other people over there in Libya. I absolutely blame her for that. And you're right. she should have been held accountable, and she wasn't. The difference, Art, is that if it's a Democrat or a Republican, it doesn't matter to me. I want them all to be held accountable because Glenn Doherty in my country is more important to me than Hillary Clinton, and America is more important to me than Donald Trump. But that's not the case with people who support Hillary, the Democratic Party, or Trump, or the Republican Party. I'm sorry, but 1-6 shows me that you guys place him over our country, and that's where I just have to disengage with y'all. Because the country is what's important to me. I wasn't born here. So the country is what's important to me, not a person or a personality or a party. The fucking country, Art. That's the issue. I love you, but your non-answer to the question I just asked you tells everyone what we all need to know about your priorities relative to this beautiful country we have in America. We continue.
With the Department of Justice, stemming from its investigation into Trump's attempted coup. And tonight, it looks like federal agents were executing the next step in one of the investigations into the ex-president. The New York Times is now reporting that this raid is related to classified documents Trump allegedly brought with him from the White House. Quote, the search, according to two people familiar with the investigation, appeared to be focused on material that Trump had brought with him to Mar-a-Lago, his private club and residence, after he left the White House. Those boxes contained many pages of classified documents, according to a person familiar with their contents. The ex-president released this statement tonight, quote,
okay, so your narrative is from the sham January 6th hearing. No, Art. My narrative is from my eyes and ears because I saw the entire thing play out in real time, Art. We all did. And while all that shit was happening, Art, are you telling me that the president immediately, once he found out that those crazy people, God forgive me, those gullible people were storming the Capitol, he immediately got up there and told those people to stop? Or did he wait an hour and a half? Was the governor of Virginia lying when he held a press conference that day, the Republican governor of Virginia, when he told everybody that he's been calling for an hour and a half to get permission to deploy the National Guard to help those people? Was he lying? Is that part of the narrative, or did that actually happen, Art? Now, I'm not going to waste any more of the people's time engaging with you on the topic, and you're not a waste of time. You're a human being created in the image and likeness of God, and I love you. But what's a waste of time is your inability to hold this man accountable. I asked you a very specific question. You threw dust in the air, and as Tasto talked about. You talked about Hillary Clinton. Then when I said, yeah, Hillary should have got jammed up too, then you went off and said, oh, you're believing in some narrative. Nah, bro. Nah, you're not going to gaslight me. I was there when it happened. I was watching. I was actually in this room, and I was watching the entire thing go down. And I remember specifically saying, why isn't Trump getting out there and stopping those people? Stop trying to tell me I didn't see. I'm a man, you're a man. Let's respect each other. Stop trying to tell me I didn't see what I saw, bro. Don't do that. We're brothers. Don't do that. Nah, bro. I saw the same thing you saw. We continue.
Are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful house. Those boxes contained many pages of
Okay, so what we have here is he's got confidential documents that he took from the White House, supposedly, okay? This is what they want us to believe. Supposedly, Mr. Trump took confidential documents from the White House as he was exiting, and they're stored in Mar-a-Lago. Now, I don't know the intricacies of Reeve Barker. Why did the Capitol Police open the doors and let them in? Because they were completely and totally outnumbered and overrun. There were 300 people down there and 2 Capitol Police. What did you want them to do? Fight to the death? You know why they were outnumbered and overrun? Because when the governor of Virginia was trying to call to get permission to deploy the National Guard, Mr. Trump, and by the way, his 2-week-old newly appointed defense secretary would not pick up the phone and authorize that. That's why the Capitol Police allowed those people in there. Thank you for the question. Now let's continue. We continue.
classified documents, according to a person familiar with their contents.
Okay, now, Reeve does ask an interesting question. He's the president. Doesn't he have the clearance to do that? I don't know the litigation side of this. I don't know what law is being broken because he's got classified documents. I mean, what are, like, for example, I would assume that if the president wrote a love note to his wife, I forgot her name. Was it Malia? I don't want to butcher her name. But if the president wrote a letter, for example, to his wife, would that count as class? I need like somebody that understands like these kinds of laws, because they're not what you think they are, and we have to understand that we're getting this from MSNBC, and MSNBC is an institution that's hostile to Trump. Okay, so we got to understand that. But if it's one of those things where it's like their personal effects or innocuous things that he just took that maybe on a technicality he broke the law, that's one thing. But if it's something that would be incriminating relative to 1-6, for example, and then he took it and they got it, that would be significant. My point is, if we don't know what the contents of that so-called classified information is, then I'm holding skepticism as to the stick-to-itiveness or the veracity of the complaint, considering the acerbic nature of the relationship between Trump and the intelligence community, and the fact that he embarrassed them on a bunch of occasions. We know the situation relative to the Mueller report and how the FBI specifically mentioned explicitly that they had it out for him. They specifically said that. Okay, that cannot be denied. Now, I've just demonstrated in the last 15 minutes, I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. However, I'm also not stupid. And when you have a guy like Chuck Schumer, who came out on broad daylight on the #1 show at the time and said, if you screw with the intelligence community, they're going to fuck you up, then I have to take that into account when we're measuring situations like this. If you don't, you're not being consistent. These people have an axe to grind against this guy. I'm not saying that means that they don't have a case. We don't know yet. All I'm saying is you have to understand that this is a guy who embarrassed this community on a multitude of occasions. The Mueller report is probably, and don't ask me why, but one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of the Bureau. Honestly, the way that whole thing played out is one of the most embarrassing moments for that organization. So if you don't think that they're still stinging and reeling from that and they don't have an axe to grind to personally go after this guy, then as we've demonstrated earlier, you're not being consistent. Okay? They have an axe to grind, and so we have got to think about that when we're measuring the information. All they've told us right now is that they've got boxes containing many pages of classified documents according to a person familiar with the contents, which is obviously an FBI source because they hate his guts, and the FBI has been working particularly with MSNBC to aerate their own conspiracy theories about Trump. Keep in mind, this same FBI was the one that spun the whole Russia yarn, which I think most people at this point would agree was bullshit. So, in point of fact, especially now in the context of Ukraine, I love the way Trump handled Russia. I love the way he handled Russia, because you know what happened? There was no fucking war between Ukraine and Russia when Trump was in office. That man waited until Mr. Biden was succinctly sworn in, and then he went in there. Say what you want. I'm just telling you that's what happened. Okay? So what we have is he's got classified documents here that he brought from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. I am assuming that that's probably illegal, depending on the nature of the classification and the nature of the information of the classified documents. We continue.
The president released this statement tonight, quote, "These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege."
As my beautiful home in Mar-a-Lago is currently under siege. Under siege. No, Mr. Trump, what happened to Breonna Taylor is a person being under siege. When the government shows up in your house and they start shooting at you from outside the fucking window and kill you in your own house, that's called being under siege. The FBI showing up at your house is not you being under siege. We continue.
raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before.
I agree. I had a good friend tell me this has never happened to a president before. You know what else has never happened as a president before? The shit that we saw in 1/6. Sorry, you did a lot of shit that presidents haven't done before. So if the FBI comes after you in a way that's never been done before, I can't feel bad for you, bro. I don't feel bad for you. You did a lot of things a normal president wouldn't do, bro. Most presidents feel how you want to feel about Obama, feel how you want to feel about Clinton, Bush, whatever. Most presidents, if it was their supporters who were doing that nonsense for an hour and a half, it would not have taken them an hour and a half to call off those dogs. So I'm sorry. You don't get to do that, Trump, and then say, this has never happened before. You've done things that have never been done before, bro. I'm sorry. I respect you as a man, but that's a ridiculous complaint. We continue.
After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. It is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls.
I agree with that. I actually agree with that. And I will say to you, Democrats, left, whatever you want to call yourself, if this is your strategy, this is the most suicidal thing. This is literally the worst possible outcome for the left. If there's something real here, if there's actual meat on the bones for this, this is a terrible, terrible strategy on the left if there's meat on the bones. What they should have done, I'll tell you guys what they should have done. What they should have done if this was their strategy. But of course, the Democrats and the FBI have an emotional and political reason for wanting to get after Trump. That is, if anybody denies that, you're just lying to yourself. But that does not get you off the hook, Trump. I don't care what the motive is of the people who are investigating you. All I care about is what the fuck was in those documents. If it's love note between you and your girl, I'm with it, and I think they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But I don't know what's in those documents, bro. So I'm suspending judgment as to the propriety of this raid until I see what's in those documents. But I'm telling you guys on the left, if this was your strategy, holy shit, that's a bad strategy. We continue.
And who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections.
How does them going after you stop Republicans and the conservatives in the midterm elections? You're one guy. And to my knowledge, you're not running for anything in the midterms. So what are you talking about? I had a friend tell me this. I love him to death. He was like, don't you think the timing is weird? I'm like, no. The man hasn't even announced that he's running for president yet, and he's certainly not running for any position in the midterms. So what are you talking about? I don't know. I don't understand that.
Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly,
Whoa!
America has now become one of those countries.
Such an assault! That's right. That's right. Because in third world countries, the most powerful people in those countries are routinely held to beholden to the law. they're over in Saudi Arabia and in Iran and over there. Ahmadinejad over there in Iran. He's constantly getting his house raided by the Iranian secret police. What the hell, Trump? We continue.
Corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is...
They even broke into my safe. Can you believe it? Can you believe they broke into my safe? My safe. Guys, obviously they would break into your safe, bro. Why? What? See, this just tells me, that, look, I had somebody trying to tell me that Joe Biden, like, that his mental faculties are all there. I just saw, somebody sent me a video of, it took him like 20 seconds to put on his own jacket. Now, you guys know my position. As a Christian, the scripture says you shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. So I'm not with the whole, we're going to make fun of a sitting president thing. One is I'm too patriotic, okay? Because at the end of the day, I don't care, Trump, Bush, Obama, I don't care. He represents us. So I'm not going to go out there and disrespect the president, right? But the facts are, just today, it took him about his wife 25 seconds to put his jacket on. There's something going on up there with our current president. But our former president, for him to mention, they even broke into my safe. Something is off with this guy. That's obviously they're going to go into your safe, my guy. You think they're going to look for classified documents and go, oh, well, there's a safe there. Should we go? No, that's a safe. You don't want to do that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen what a place looks like after forget the FBI, just beat cops. I don't know if you've ever seen what these people do to your house and stuff. Or go ask a couple unit guys like how the house looks. You just go in there and just take over the house, just sit in there and live there. That's how it goes, Mr. Trump. They even went through my safe. Allahu Akbar. I need to put that in the thumbnail. Not my safe.
The difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee. Here, in reverse.
Art, I can be extremely wrong on this subject, but the problem is not you, not Ascender Prime. None of you will answer that question I asked about January 6th relative to Obama. So it's very possible I could be extremely wrong. I've been extremely wrong on a lot of things, and that's why I come on here and immediately correct myself. So, for example, the abortion case with the 10-year-old, I didn't believe that the girl existed. And then a couple hours later, a couple people said, hey, the girl existed. She was really assaulted. And I jumped on the very next day and I shot a video addressing it directly. Because if I'm wrong, I want to hold myself accountable. Art, I asked you a question 25 minutes ago. You've yet to answer it, and everybody knows why you didn't answer it. So if I'm extremely wrong, that's very possible. But your non-answer to a very basic question does not tend to validate that statement. We continue.
To run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe.
Unbelievable.
What is the difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee? Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th president of the United States.
This whole thing that, oh, he's the president. Name another president this happened to. I used to be the president. I was the president. They can't kick me off of Twitter. Guys, we do not live in a monarchy. We live in a democracy. We live in a democratic republic. The president is a public servant. Do you guys understand that? The president is a public servant. I didn't have an altercation. I had a conversation with a police officer. He asked me for my name. I said, I'm not giving you my name. He's like, let me see your ID. I said, I'm not giving you that. I'm not giving you nothing. We had a conversation because there was a little conflict. The folks at Planned Parenthood didn't like me. I talked to the homie for a second, and then I sent him on his way. I said, I'm done talking to you now. And he left. That's the relationship Americans are supposed to have with their government. What is the same? This is so crazy to me. The same people that say we have a Second Amendment so that we can lock and load in case the government gets any funny ideas. Those same people are acting like there's something like sacrosanct and holy about the fact that he's the president. That makes him above the law. No. I don't give a damn if you're the president. I don't care if you're the sitting president or the former president. If you broke the fucking law, you broke the law. I don't care. A person could say, all the liberals could say, well, name a Secretary of State that had to answer for their emails like Hillary Clinton did. That doesn't matter. They're public servants. They work for us. So I don't care that he was a former president. This is again, but you can hear the privilege speaking. You can hear the privilege speaking. None of the people that are saying, when does this happen to a president? You think those same people would be worried if it was happening to Obama? Stop it. Stop it. This is America. We're not a monarchy. They're public servants. They're beholden to the law. As a matter of fact, as Jesus said, to much is given, much is required. You should be held to a higher standard of law, actually, than a regular civilian, actually, if you're the president. You should be held to a higher standard, not a lower one.
As you just heard, Trump himself admitted that he is cooperating with the relevant government agencies in this investigation.
Now listen to this, lady. He admitted that he was cooperating. He admitted, as if that's something wrong. You see, everybody's so biased that they have to massage language. He admitted that he's cooperating. And if he didn't cooperate, she would say he's admitting that he's refusing to cooperate. Why isn't he cooperating? Does he have something to hide? You see what these people do? You see what happens on the left and the right? How they just cannot tell the truth and the facts of the case. He admitted. They're trying to poison your mind into automatically saying that he's guilty. He admitted it. Ridiculous. He cooperated. That's something that's good. That's positive. I'm glad Mr. Trump is cooperating. That's what he's supposed to do. He did not admit to cooperating. Ridiculous. We continue.
National Committee. Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th president of the United States. As you just heard, Trump himself admitted that he is cooperating with the relevant government agencies in this investigation. The ex-president is right about one thing. This is a truly unprecedented event. Ken Delaney is an NBC News justice and intelligence correspondent, and he joins me now. Ken, understanding that this is a developing story, what more do we know?
Alicia, we have new reporting in from my colleague Kelly O'Donnell, who was told by a source familiar with the matter that, first of all, the president is in New York City today, so he was not present for this search. And that secondly...
Why is that relevant? No, seriously, somebody tell me why that's relevant. That he was in New York and that he wasn't present.
She has learned that the FBI notified the Secret Service a few hours before the search warrant was executed, and that the Secret Service facilitated their access to the Mar-a-Lago property as federal agents, but did not take part in the search. And that is consistent with the protocol of how these things would go, where the former president, of course, has Secret Service protection, including protection at all his properties. So they have custody of the place. So they're not just going to let anybody in.
Can you imagine how much money we're spending on this guy? All of his properties? Like, I would say, you know, obviously he's a principal. He should be protected for the rest of his life and his primary place of residence. But I'd say, listen, if you've got 19 other homes, hire your own security detail, man. Why am I paying for that? Again, this is this whole we need to treat the president like a king nonsense. But that's not him. That's all the presidents are like that. They've all got multiple houses, not just Trump. We continue.
But of course, their fellow federal law enforcement officers, the FBI, would call them up and say, we have a lawful warrant. We're going to execute this warrant at such and such a time. And that's apparently what took place with this development today. And again, just stepping back.
See, that's the other thing that's fascinating is that there was some time between when they announced the raid and when it happened, which again, for full disclosure, is a lot more than Breonna Taylor had. If Breonna Taylor had a phone call like that, she'd be alive today. But all the people worried about Mr. Trump and his safe, I was watching y'all when the whole Breonna Taylor thing came out. None of y'all came with any emotion about that. But we're worried about Trump's safe. Okay.
This is a big deal. What this shows, obviously, is that the FBI was able to convince a judge that there was probable cause to believe that there was evidence of a crime and that evidence existed at this location, that they had.
Okay. I am not certain. That that's the case with the FBI. The FBI doesn't just do crime. A lot of people don't know that. I'm not going to get into it, but the FBI doesn't just function on crime. They are a law enforcement apparatus for sure at a federal level, but they don't just do crime, and they don't have to convince a judge only about crimes in order to get a search warrant.
Go and do this search, a big Fourth Amendment intrusion into someone's property. And there's been some speculation by guests, contributors on our air tonight, that this relates to the case of the missing records from the National Archives. If you recall, there were reports that Trump took some records from the White House they shouldn't have taken. That's conceivably possible, but this is
Again, if it's something pertinent to January 6th or something relative to intimidation of electors and things like that, cool. But if it's some technicality, like I said, letters to his wife or something that technically become White House property and it's not his property, if they try to use those resources on a technicality where it's like, well, technically it's against the law, I'm not trying to hear that, bro. Honestly. Like, I want to see the contents of that document. And if it's something actionable, cool. But if it's more of this, we're going to get revenge on you for making us look bad because of Russia, I'm telling you, there should be held to pay and accountability for that. There should be. The fact that nobody got jammed up for the Mueller investigation when we spent millions of dollars and, quite frankly, distracted our sitting president from doing actual presidential duties because he was dodging this bullshit conspiracy theory. The fact that all the Russiagate stuff, that nobody paid for that, is also indicative of the fact that we're not living in a democracy and we've got whole groups of people who can do all types of crazy shit and get away with it. You know, if you go down the street and pull a fire alarm and you get caught, there'll be actual more accountability for you than for the federal officers who broke laws and explicitly said that they were going after Trump because they were part of the resistance, and nobody paid for that. That's also wrong, and that is also scary, because if the Intelligence Committee can do that to the president, then who are you? I understand you hate Donald Trump, but I'm telling you guys right now, if the information in these documents turns out to be innocuous and stupid, people's heads should roll for that shit. You cannot deploy the intelligence apparatus as your own personal get-back gang. That's not how it works in America anyway. That's not how it's supposed to work. We continue.
Huge step, unprecedented in American history, perhaps, by the FBI. And so it's coming in the context of this other set of investigations involving Trump and election, election, seeking to overturn the election, people close to him being called before the grand jury, lawyers who advised him being targeted with their own warrants. So there's a lot going on in terms of law enforcement activity directed at the former president, Alicia.
Do we have a sense of the scope of what it is that they're looking for?
Well, we absolutely don't. It's a secret process. If they're generally, when there's a search warrant like this, an FBI agent will submit an affidavit to the judge describing everything that they're looking for. But almost surely in this case, that affidavit is sealed because this is a secret investigation. There will also be a document filed that shows what the FBI took. Obviously, we're combing court records trying to find this stuff, but so far it doesn't appear to be on file. So no, we will not know for some time exactly what was taken unless the president wants to tell us. And, it's possible because we learned when his lawyer, Jeffrey Clark, his former election.
Well, we don't know if anything is taken yet. Okay. All we know is that there was a raid by the FBI and but we don't know the contents of what they supposedly took. The only reason I'm pointing it out is because we've got to be very precise in these situations, because when it comes to Trump, nobody's trying to be objective. So he's already assuming, oh yeah, he did take those documents. No, that was their target. That's what they were going for. But we don't know what they found or if they found it. It could be a whole lot of nothing. We don't know. But he's talking about it as if it's already been decided because he's Trump. You got to watch for stuff like this. We continue.
Where was the target of an FBI and Inspector General search warrant. Clark then contested that warrant in court. And as a result of that, we learned that they seized his phone. So we may learn more about this. At the moment, we do not know what they took.
Again, speaking of statements from the president, I wonder what you make of this admission by the president that he and his team are cooperating with investigators.
I mean, I would take that with a complete grain of salt. There's been some reporting that his lawyers are in touch with the Justice Department. That makes perfect sense. I mean, he's got a lot of experienced lawyers who are going to want to reach out and find out what exactly the Justice Department wants with their clients, what questions they have, what actions they're taking. Whether he's cooperating is another matter. Has he spoken to?
No, it's not another matter. It's not another matter. He said he was cooperating. She read. See, this is what I'm saying. See. Notice how she put it at the beginning. He admitted that he cooperated. Now she's like, well, what do we make of this that he's cooperating? Now he's trying to make it sound like, well, we don't really know if he's cooperating. This is what the news does. They're not going to. Because if he says he's cooperating, and if he was really cooperating, that doesn't comport to the narrative that he's got this guilty secret that he's hiding. So he has to act like, well, we don't really know if he's cooperating or not. We'll take everything else at face value except for that. Look, like I said, I don't know this guy. All I'm saying is you have got to listen very carefully. Anytime this man is the central subject, you almost have zero hope, including with me, of getting a completely objective understanding of what's happening with this man. Okay? You got to be careful when you're listening about Trump. We continue.
Investigators on any of these cases, we have no idea. So I think we should be very careful about any kind of statement to that effect.
Okay, so you said that he had the documents, even though we don't know that, but then he explicitly said he's cooperating, and now you're saying, well, we need to be very careful about that. Unbelievable. Hey, sir, if he wasn't cooperating, I'm almost certain that there would be an anonymous leak that Mr. Trump was not cooperating, and we would see the text or whatever Trump says, fuck you, I'm not cooperating. So the fact that they haven't come out and said that leads me to believe that he probably is cooperating. We continue.
A grain of salt that is always well reminded. Ken Delaney, and thank you as always.
All right. Well, there we go. That's the situation. Vin, the National Archive already established that Trump has 15 boxes of classified. We already know that Trump lawyers returned some already after sawing. Please look up the story. Well, send me the link, Alden, and I'll look up the story. I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, I don't know enough information about this situation to know what those documents were. When I talk about a technicality, what I'm talking about is if it's nothing that is relative to 1-6 or relative to anything serious, then I don't want to hear about it. They took us through 4 years of this Russiagate bullshit, Alden. I'm not going to forget that. Just because we don't like Trump doesn't mean we erase history. This is very recent history, Alden. I'd like to show you again. Chuck Schumer went on Rachel Maddow's show
brand new Democrat
and said the following. This is what Chuck Schumer said out of his own mouth. And Alden and everybody else, you have got to take this account anytime you see any intelligence apparatus going after Trump. Here's what was said.
The intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they...
He said that 5 years ago, right after Trump got elected. That has got, and then when you look at what happened with the Mueller report and all the rest of it, that has to be taken into account when the FBI or anybody else is going after him. That has to be a factor. I am not saying that I'm going to completely ignore it, but I'm telling you, from my vantage point, if there isn't something significant in these 15,000 documents, and the other thing I need to know is, how uncommon is that? Like, is this the first time a president has taken classified documents after he left office? Did Clinton do that? Did Bush do that? Did Obama do that? I need to know. I don't know enough about this area of litigation to comment on it. You might. I'm dead serious. You might. I don't know enough about that. So, you know, I just know enough to where you won't spend a lot of time with the JAG officer. That's as much as I know. But as far as like this, I don't know anything about this. So what I'm saying is, as just a common person, if it's something like really injurious, like insider trading with China, selling secrets to somebody, or even if he was trying to set up some sort of business venture using, you know, like how Biden did with Burisma. If he was to do that to set up a presidency, to set up some business venture, but I'm telling you, if it's something like the daily logs, like so-and-so got coffee and whatever, it's something like that, and you raided this man's house, I have a serious problem with that. I would have a very, very, very big problem with that. I need to know what the actual documentation is that they have, if anything. Okay? That's my take on this. Been going on since February. Donald Trump, Mar-a-lago security. Thank you for the intel. Let me get on that and pull up this article. Thank you very much, Alden, for saying that, for getting me that info, because it's very important. Because it's important for me to get this stuff. So let me pull up this article. It's an AP News article. It's in February. It's dated February 18th, 2022. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just read this article. Shout out to the big homie Alden. I'm going to screen share this thing and read this article and see if this can't get us some more insight. And this is why we do Middle America. And by the way, guys, Alden is kind of disagreeing with me or whatever, and that's okay. And he's got his receipts on him, and if I'm wrong and they delineate specifically what's in there, then I will gladly say that, because I don't care about being personally right. I care about matching reality as much as possible, as all of us should. Because if you don't match reality as much as you possibly can, if that's not your primary goal, you can be manipulated by political actors. Okay, so I'm going to share this. Credit goes to Alden for quickly getting this article. Let's see what we have here. Google Chrome. Okay, there's my ugly mug. So you see there, February 18th, 2022. This is the AP National Archive. Trump took classified items to Mar-a-Lago. That's in February of 2022. So one of my questions immediately is, why didn't you get rid of it, Trump? I mean, good Lord. All right, let's see. Classified information was found in the 15 boxes of White House records that were stored at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. The National Archives and Records Administration said Friday in a letter that confirmed the matter has been sent to the Justice Department. The letter from the agency follows numerous reports around Trump's handling of sensitive and even classified information during his time as president and after he left the White House. The letter from the agency, numerous reports around Trump's handling of sensitive and even classified information. The revelation could also interest federal investigators responsible for policing the handling of government secrets, so the Justice Department and FBI have not indicated they will pursue. Federal law bars the removal of classified documents to unauthorized locations, though it is possible that Trump could try to argue that as president, he was the ultimate declassification authority. Okay, that's one of the things I was talking about. Like, is this a hard and fast rule that he couldn't bring it to Mar-a-Lago? No matter the legal risk, it exposes him to charges of hypocrisy, given his relentless attacks during the 2016 presidential campaign on Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton for her use of private email server as the Secretary of State. The FBI investigated, but ultimately did not recommend charges. Trump recently denied reports about his administration's tenuous relationship with the National Archives, and his lawyers said that they are continuing to search for additional presidential records that belong to the National Archives. In a statement Friday night, Trump said the National Archives did not find anything. They were given, upon request, presidential records in an ordinary and routine process. If this was anyone but Trump, there would be no story here. That's probably true. This article is making me ask a lot of questions, and I'll talk about it when I get back done reading the article. The letter from the archivist in response to the White House Committee on Oversight and Reform, which is investigating, also details how certain social media records were not captured and preserved by the Trump administration. It also says that the agency learned that the White House staff frequently conducted official business using unofficial messaging accounts and personal phones. I don't care. Those staff did not copy or forward their official messaging accounts as required by the Presidential Records Act. The letter goes on to reveal that after Trump left the White House, the National Archives learned that additional paper records that had been torn up by the former president had been transferred to the agency. Although White House staff during the Trump administration recovered and taped together some of the torn up records. Is this real? They recovered and taped together some of the torn up records? A number of other torn up records that were transferred had not been reconstructed by the White House. Lawmakers are also seeking information about the context of the boxes recovered from Mar-a-Lago, but the agency cited that Records Act is holding them back from divulging. Carolyn Maloney, the chairwoman of the Oversight Committee, said in a statement Friday, these new revelations deepen my concern about former President Trump's flagrant disregard for federal records law and potential impact on our historical record. Okay, I'm sorry, Alden. This is shaping up to be a big nothing burger to me, but we continue. I am committed to uncovering the full depth of the Presidential Records Act violations by the former President Trump and his top advisors and using those findings to advance critical reforms and prevent future abuses. Stop it! I'm not even going to Google what this woman had to say during the Hillary Clinton situation. I'm not even Googling it. The Washington Post first reported that the archivist asked the Justice Department to investigate the discovery of 15 boxes of White House records recovered from Trump at his Mar-a-lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, and that the former president had a habit in office of tearing up records, both sensitive and mundane. Okay? So that tells me that that's just his practice, and being a business tycoon, I can see why he does that. House investigators will be looking to see if Trump's action both during his presidency and after violated the Presidential Records Act, which was enacted in 1968 after former President Richard Nixon wanted to destroy documents that related to the Watergate scandal. The law mandates that presidential records are the property of the U.S. government rather than belong to the president himself. A statute punishable by up to 3 years in prison makes it a crime to conceal or intentionally destroy government documents. That last line is what I'm talking about. The law mandates that presidential records are the property of the U.S. government rather than belonging to the president himself. So what I'm saying is, if it was letters to Melania and pictures, like Melania sent him pictures, but he sent it from the White House, technically that belongs to the government archives, but I could understand why he would want to take those for himself, obviously. And I'm telling you, if it comes out that it's that shit, I'm sorry, but I'd have a really, really serious problem with our government for doing that. I'm sorry. I don't really, that really doesn't do much for me. I'm still in a wait and see type of thing. They have to keep records. It doesn't matter if we care or not. Like he said, it's not a market. The president can ignore or break the law. Yeah, Alden, the problem is that I also want to know, did Obama do this? Did Clinton do this? Did Bush do this? Because these people came on record and said that they're going after him because he embarrassed them. Chuck Schumer went off and said that shit. So Alden, even though the president is not above the law, he's not less than a regular citizen either. And a regular citizen, if the FBI went after a person like that, and it was discovered that Alden, one of those people in the FBI literally said that they were part of the resistance and they were not going to allow Trump to be president. That came out during the Mueller report. Okay? Now, if somebody went after me and created a federal case about that, I would be able to sue them for that. And I'd probably win. But because it's Trump, you guys just said, oh, well, who cares? I'm not going to overlook that. So there's a historical context here between Trump and this institution. So what I'm saying is, if they're getting this guy on a technicality, I'm sorry, I'm against that. Because this is using the legal apparatus to settle a personal vendetta against a person, and we cannot allow that to be a precedent. These people went after this man for 4 years. They spun a yarn of conspiracy theory. They were full of shit. They knew they were full of shit, but they were trying to get him. And nobody was held accountable for that, Alden. So while I say the president is not a king, and I don't care that they raided your Mar-a-Lago estate and they went into your safe, I don't care about that if you're an actual criminal. But if it comes back and it's a big nothing burger, something has to happen to these folks who continuously do this. This is literal legal harassment. Again, if he's clean on this, this is literal legal harassment that anybody else would have been able to file a lawsuit from. But because it's Trump, it's okay. And I'm not good with that either, because it's not going to be long before they turn their guns on me. Well, they've already turned their guns on me. I'm black in America, but you see what I'm saying. So, no, I can't accept that, Alden. If it's 15,000... if it's 15 boxes of dirty letters between him and Melania, or him and some other porn star or something like that, or whatever, and they did that shit, I would have a serious problem with that. If the man is as horrible as everybody says he is, then you should have to make shit up and find some law from the 1970s to go after. I'm not saying, I don't know what's in the contents of those documents. I don't know. But at some point, You guys have to understand that if the FBI gets to fuck with somebody and harass somebody and go after somebody for embarrassing them, if they can do that to the president, they can do that to all of us. So I'm making a distinction here. Him getting raided after they went through the process and getting a search warrant and them going through his safe, I don't care. Suck it up, Trump. You deserve to be in prison for the rest of your life for your actions or your inaction on 1-6. On the other side, that institution, the intelligence apparatus in this country, explicitly went after this man. They used their power, the power that we vested in them, to settle a personal vendetta. And if that is continuing even outside of his presidency, there has got to be reform and accountability for that. That cannot go unanswered. Period. And you got to understand something, Alden, and the rest of you. The president spends 4, maybe 8 years max in his office. The people that are running the FBI do not have limits. They don't have term limits. Okay? So you've got a whole bunch of intelligence apparati in this country that don't have term limits, that do not see themselves as being beholden to common American law. There's even less accountability for that group of people than for the president of the United States. And these people have the power directly to fuck up your life, bro. Directly. They could put you away for decades. They can end your life. So there has got to be accountability for that. And we can't look the other way because it's Trump and we don't like Trump. You can't do that. They've been going after this man explicitly. And even the fact that Chuck Schumer could get out in front of the most popular show at the time and say, the intelligence community is coming after you because you embarrassed them. That already tells us we're not living in a free America. Every freedom-loving person, when Chuck Schumer said that, should have been like, what the fuck you mean by that, Schumer? What the fuck you mean? They got ways of punishing you 6 ways from Sunday. What are you talking about? That's not why we hired the FBI. The FBI works for us. The FBI works for us. We didn't hire them to settle personal vendettas from people. No, hell no, hell no, hell no. We cannot accept that. We cannot accept that from the FBI just because it's Trump. We cannot do that. Okay. All right. This is where we are. Yeah, I know. I saw the bot there. This is where we are. Now, here's what I'll say before I leave. If this is a move by the left, by Democrats, whatever you want to call them, I understand that the left and the Democrats are not the same thing. Okay? But if this is a move by them to get Trump out of the 2024 elections, this is the stupidest, most self-destructive thing that you could do. Why? Here's why. Florida passed a semi-pro-life legislation. I think it's 15 weeks. Florida, I forgot. So it's semi-pro-life. You guys know me. I'm an abolitionist. We need to end the practice of child killing completely. But 15 weeks. There was also they also made it illegal to give hormone blockers and puberty blockers to under 18 trans kids, which I fully support. Especially considering the FDA just released a report saying that there's brain swelling and possible vision loss using these puberty blockers. The FDA came out and said that last week. So I support that. If you're 18 and you want to put yourself in danger, I'm not going to say go for it, but I can't stop you. But if you're underage, no. I don't believe underage kids should be getting pumped full of chemicals, and I definitely don't believe that we should be chopping off body parts until you're 18 plus, 21 plus, if I could get away with it. So that's what happened in Florida. Well, one of the attorneys or one of the prosecutors, district prosecutors, said, yeah, if I see a case that says we're going to prosecute a doctor for killing a child in abortion, I'm not going to try it. And then if I see a case where there's a doctor who gave a kid a puberty blocker, I'm not going to try the case. So basically he was saying, you guys can pass that law all you want, but I'm not going to enforce it. And if the prosecutor doesn't enforce it, then the law is moot, right? If that would have happened under Trump's watch, Trump would have fired up some tweet. He would have tweeted that he would have nicknamed that AG. He would have nicknamed that prosecutor some stupid nickname. You know, let's say the guy's name is John. He'd probably say Jiggling John. Maybe the guy's a little overweight. Trump would have said Jiggling John said Jiggling John said he's not going to prosecute. What a terrible guy. He's a horrible guy. I think he's ugly. I dated his mother in high school. She's a very nice woman. I don't know what happened to him. Right? That's what Trump would have done. You know what DeSantis did? DeSantis posted up on Friday and said, you know what? We passed these two laws. This guy said he was not going to do it, so we're going to suspend him and look for his replacement. Libs of TikTok is posting all this shit about these crazy, sick motherfuckers, really sick people taking kids to drag shows, really sick, mentally ill people allowing little kids to put fucking dollar bills in their junk and telling little kids, hey, you're going to be a great stripper one day or whatever. Really evil, sick motherfuckers fucking twerking naked in front of little kids. Really sick, evil people, right? Now, Trump would take that and say, look at these nasty people. He'd probably retweet the Libs of TikTok. Look at these nasty, terrible, terrible people. You know what DeSantis did? He passed his legislation in response to Libs of TikTok. DeSantis doesn't tweet. He passes legislation. And then the poor souls at Disney, all those LGBT people at Disney said, you need to write a letter, Disney. You need to write a letter decrying this. So Disney sent up a little blog and said, we don't support this. We support the gay and trans people in the community. And then you guys saw what DeSantis did. DeSantis said, oh, word? Okay, we're going to completely turn your world upside down, Disney. He passes legislation. This man, in response to the crazy, sick, evil strippers that are stripping in front of little kids and their sick parents that are bringing them there, you know what he did? He went and found a 1947 decency law to try to get the place shut down. My point is, if you're on the left or if you're a Democrat, you want Trump. You don't want DeSantis. Now, here's the funny thing. Trump, as we've demonstrated in this discussion, has a bunch of loyalists that are going to be loyal to him no matter what he does. No matter what gets found, these people, January 6th proves that Trump is more important to them than the country. So Trump has diehard supporters that will never leave his side. But Mr. DeSantis is upcoming. Do you know how bloody a primary battle between DeSantis and Trump would be? Do you know how high the hyperbole would have to be between those two guys, those two alpha males vying for supremacy? That would be the bloodiest civil war among the right since the Confederates. And I'm not saying that it would result in a win for Democrats, but here's what would happen. You better hope and pray, if you're on the left, that there's nothing significant found in those documents. Because let me tell you something. Many of you will get a nice emotional surge from seeing Mr. Trump in handcuffs getting carted off. You'll get a wonderful emotional surge. But as I've said about the left over and over again, is that we need to grow up and stop thinking with our hearts and use strategy. You feel with your heart. You're not supposed to think with your heart. And while it may be very emotionally satisfying for you to see Trump getting carted off in prison in a humiliating fashion, what that would do is it would unite the Republican Party behind Ron DeSantis. All of the Trump loyalists would go right behind DeSantis, and you would experience a right. Listen, if you put Trump in prison, you're gonna have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican executive branch. And that man DeSantis will pass legislation like a motherfucker. He's demonstrated he's not afraid to use it. If you fuck with Ron DeSantis, he's going to dig into the law library. If you fuck with Trump, he's going to dig into his vocabulary, his very expansive vocabulary, and he's going to go to Twitter Ron DeSantis is going to go to the law library and he's going to fuck you up. If this is just a ploy to get back at Trump, this is literally the worst possible thing you could do. Because I'm telling you, this guy, Ron DeSantis, is something you've never seen. We've never seen a guy like this. He's competent. All those people talking about Trump was a fascist and all this and that. I said, man, y'all losing your minds. Y'all crazy. And I still think y'all are crazy for saying that shit. I used to ask people, what legislation has Trump passed that has hurt you directly? But I'm telling you, you get Ron DeSantis in there. Robert McKinley's telling you, I too will back DeSantis. This man is already, it might already be too late anyway. Trump is falling out of favor with Fox News and Charlie Kirk and the rest of it. So it might be a done deal anyway. But I believe so deeply in the MAGA energy and in the Trump followers that his followers are gonna, just the emotional ramifications of losing to a guy like Joe Biden. I still think that if Trump is eligible to be elected, that he'd beat DeSantis. But I'm telling you, if you get this guy jammed up and you get him locked up, you're gonna experience a hellscape that you. Whew. I voted for Trump twice, but I'd much rather have DeSantis because Trump has proven that he's dangerous to our democracy. I agree. He should be in prison for the rest of his life, his natural life. I agree with you. But I hear you about you'd much rather have DeSantis. But if you voted for Trump, that means that you're not on the left, Alden, right? Like, you're not a progressive. You're not on the left. You're not even a Democrat if you voted for Trump twice. So I understand that you would support DeSantis. What I'm talking about is if you're a Democrat, or if you consider yourself blue in any way or on the left in any way, seeing Trump jammed up and locked up in handcuffs is probably literally the death note of the Democratic Party, because I'm telling you that this guy doesn't play games. DeSantis does not play. He has power and he knows how to use it. So, if this is some sort of intricate ploy to get rid of Trump, this is gonna be the absolute. This is the worst situation possible if he gets arrested. If he gets arrested and locked up, this is the worst situation possible, because that is going to unify all those MAGA people. The bloody civil war. It's going to get so bloody between Trump and DeSantis that a lot of people are speculating that DeSantis would just sit it out and wait 4 years. That's how bloody it would be. So, if you get Trump in handcuffs, man, and that man gets locked up, holy shit. Look, if it was me, I'll tell you what I would do. If I was a Democrat and I had this information on Trump, we had him dead to rights, I would wait. I would wait until he's the primary guy, and then I would unleash the dogs of war and get this man arrested. I would not do it now. If this is a ploy to get him out of the running, this is a terrible idea, and the timing is horrible. Really horrible. So, Vinny, you don't think that the goal is to make sure he can't run again? Oh no. I am certain. If Democratic operatives are behind this latest raid, that is absolutely their goal. But what I'm saying is that would be the worst possible outcome if you believe in things like Medicare for all, or if you have any concern for your LGBT friends. It would be the worst possible thing if Trump gets carted off in a year or two, or in a couple weeks or months in handcuffs. It would be the worst possible thing, because that would completely solidify the party completely around Ron DeSantis, and there would be so much rage, because I'm not going to get into it right now, but Donald Trump is important to a lot of people because of what he represents. Okay, and you put together what you think I'm saying, but Trump represents something. So to put that icon in handcuffs, the rage of the people would know no bounds. And blood would be shed for sure, but even worse, you would see a Republican coalescence unlike anything you've ever seen in this country ever. So if that is the goal, holy shit, there's a problem. Brace for impact, as Jenk says. If they go to him and say, we won't press charges if you don't run the plea deal they always seem to make. Nah, I don't think Trump wouldn't accept that. Trump wouldn't accept that. He would never accept bending the knee to the Democrats. Trump would rather die than do that on a public stage. He'd rather die than do that on a public stage. So Malcolm says, why is that a problem? Look, I'm not saying, Malcolm, that it's necessarily a problem as far as whether or not it should happen. What I'm saying is, if you care about things like Medicare for all, if you care about your LGBT friends, Ron DeSantis is not the guy. I'm extremely worried about my LGBT friends in Florida. And look, I'm not some bleeding heart liberal. Like I said, the shit on Libs of TikTok is pretty terrible, and the people participating in it, I said, are evil, sick, horrible people. So I'm not one of these bleeding heart people. But at the same time, I also know that the vast majority of LGBT people are not like those people on Libs of TikTok. But Mr. DeSantis has enacted some serious laws that deleteriously affect LGBT people and kids. And I'm very worried. I'm extremely I'm extremely worried for that. Now, again, my brother Paul is saying, I disagree. They need him gone. No mercy. I'm not talking about mercy. I don't care about giving Trump any mercy. I've said it a million times. He should be in prison for the rest of his life. What I'm talking about is the strategy. You're going to coalesce everybody around this dude. What I would do if I had a smoking gun on Trump, I would wait until the primaries were over and that he had a bloody altercation with Ron DeSantis to get the primary vote, and then I would release all that information and set the FBI on him and all the rest of it. Then I would do that. But doing it now, if their motivation is to make sure they don't have to deal with him in 2024, I think it's the stupidest thing that the Democrats could ever do. Because you're going to end up with DeSantis. And that boy, he doesn't play. He doesn't play. And you know what? Who knows? Who knows? All right. Thank you guys for coming through. Shout out to my buddy Jay Vell. Much love to everybody. Thank you to my brother Art for participating in the little cultural jihad. I appreciate it. I love you all. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other, guys. We need objection counsel. We need the House more than the executive. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Paul, you're not going to get that. You're not going to have the House if Trump goes away in handcuffs. You're going to have 2, possibly 4, possibly 6 years of complete Republican supermajority in rule if Mr. Trump gets carted off in handcuffs at this point. That's what I'm saying. That's what I see. If the Democrats somehow eke out some sort of majority in the House, that's only going to last for 2 years, and the Republicans are going to come back with a vengeance that will be unheard of if they see that man walking out in handcuffs. The response, and by the way, not just Republicans. Because as I said, Trump represents something. And that value that Trump represents, you know this as well as I know this, brother. That value, the certain value system that Trump represents, is not only found in the Republican Party, right? I think you know what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of Democrats that don't want to see that happen to Trump either, if you can read between the lines. So I just think that it will be absolutely insane if that happened, because there would be serious blowback. Serious blowback. Would that be Civil War II if Trump was arrested? If Trump was arrested and DeSantis lost, yes, but he wouldn't lose. He wouldn't lose. And Paul, you know what I'm talking about. Paul knows what I'm talking about. There's no way in the world them folks would let that happen. Got that man in handcuffs like he's a Negro or something. Oh, I should have said that. That would never happen, bro. All right. Love you all. Have a good one. Shout out to Venito, all the rest of you beautiful people. Do you think Biden would let Trump be handcuffed? I think he'd pardon him the same day. I think Biden would, but I think whoever's actually, and I promise you, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think Biden would pardon Trump, but I think whoever is actually running the country would not let that happen. And I'm trying my best not to disrespect our sitting president. Everybody knows how I feel about Biden, but the scripture says you shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. I don't believe that Biden is being given the leeway to call those plays. Let me just say it that way. So he probably would if it was up to him, because I don't really believe he has any real problem with Trump, because really they're the same. Well, Biden's obviously a lot worse than Trump relative to the race issue, but they're really the same people, right? So, yeah, I think he would say, oh, come on, buddy, that's fine. We'll go golfing after all this shit is done. I got to be president. You got to be president. Let's go golfing. I think that's probably would be Biden's real sort of attitude towards it. But the people that are actually calling the plays, I don't think that would ever happen. It would never happen. All right. That's as best as I could do. I love you all. Have a good one. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Do something good for somebody tomorrow. Be kind to everyone you see, for everyone you know is fighting a hard battle. I am out of here. Vin out. Take care of yourself, y'all.